Yo, what's up, everybody? I'm Bob Walters. Welcome to Locked Up Sports Weekend Wrap-Up Memorial Day edition. I hope everybody had a good long weekend. I hope you enjoyed it outside as summer has arrived. And then I hope you got back in and caught Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics failed to make history tonight. They lose Game 7, blown out. The Golden Knights in the NHL, as the NHL Finals is set, they beat the Stars 6-0 in a Game 6 to advance. The Mets with a day off, but they spin their wheels again in Colorado, losing 2 out of 3. And the Yankees, just minutes ago, finished off a 10-4 Memorial Day win over the Seattle Mariners in Seattle. Judge with a big game, another home run by Judge. We'll get to all that. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Hope everybody's ready to go back to work tomorrow. And summer's here. Summer 2023 is finally here. And the baseball teams, the Yankees, seem to be picking it up, playing better. The Mets are just, they're a 500 team, the Mets. And we're going to get to all that. But let's start with the big story tonight. The big story, of course, is Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Celtics, listen, it's hard. There's a reason why 150 times teams have gone up 3-0 in a series, and 150 times the team that went up 3-0 has won that series. Most of the time they win it in 4 or 5. This one went 7. 2 others have gone 7. Both lost. The Celtics were the first team to host the Game 7 after falling down 0-3 in a series. And you know what? It's hard to win 4 straight games against a playoff team who has made a run this deep into the playoffs. And it didn't go well all night. From the very first possession, Tatum rolled his ankle, and he wasn't the same. So now you got the best player on the Celtics, not the same, rolled his ankle. He was clearly hurting. It's going to blow up tonight, I'm sure. But the Celtics went out to a 9-4 lead, and what happened? They just couldn't hit a shot after that. They couldn't hit a shot to save their life. 9 of 42 from 3. You're not winning anything, anywhere, in any gym, shooting 9 of 42 from 3. It's just not going to happen, okay? They couldn't score. They didn't have the scoring. They turned the ball over. Jaylen Brown turned the ball over 8 times himself. Tatum was okay. He did what he could. He played the minutes, and he made some plays, but you could tell he was limpid. He could not play defense. And listen, the Heat have a great coach. Spoelstra coaching in, I think it was his 7th or 8th Game 7. He saw that. He went right after him. He went right after Tatum. They couldn't stop him. You had Caleb Martin with a big game out of nowhere, which is what you need in Game 7. So if you're an underdog, 26, 10, and 3. Butler had his normal, close to 28, 7, and 6. And the Celtics couldn't hit a shot. They went up 9-4. The Heat came back, went on an 18-2 run, something like that. The first quarter ended, they had a 7-point lead, and that was it. It never really got close. It was then, 10-15. The lead would balloon up to 15, then it would come back down to 10. Every once in a while, the Celtics would get it into single digits, but it never really felt like the Celtics threatened to come back. And listen, everybody, I picked the Heat before the game. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek because who really thought the Heat were going to come back and win Game 7 after that devastating loss in Game 6? I mean, they lost with milliseconds left on the clock in Game 6. And then going back, the Celtics are the better team already, going home for Game 7. Tickets were going for like $10,000. And, I mean, they went in there and the Celtics laid an egg. A Game 7, they laid an egg. People blaming the coach. Listen, the coach did not have a good game. Okay, you got to make adjustments. If your team, you can't just keep firing up threes when nothing is going in. You got to do something else. The defense wasn't great for the Celtics, but it's not the coach's fault. This is his first year in the NBA as a head coach. First year at the Celtics. I mean, come on. You can't. Here's what the problem was. Don't fall down. Don't fall behind 3-0 in a series and expect to come back, because it's happened 151 times, and 151 times they have not come back. And it's not easy to come back, and that's why it's happened 151 times in a row, and only 4 times in professional sports have teams come back. because it's hard to win 4 in a row against a good team, a playoff team, especially the deeper you get into the playoffs. So now 103 to 84 was the final. Like I said, field goal percentage. I mean, the Celtics were 39% from the field, 9 of 42 from 3. The Heat 48%, 14 of 28. They were not bad. They shot the ball good. They played their game. It was a possession game, which is what the Heat need. You start running up and down the court, they're not going to beat the Celtics. And the Celtics came out and they just had one of those nights where nothing went down, nothing went in, nothing went their way, and it would happen. The very first play of the game, Tatum rolled the ankle, and that was it. That was it. So we got the Heat, and we got the Denver Nuggets. The Denver's a decisive favorite in this. A lot of people saying 5 games, 4 games. Listen, give the Heat a little credit. Okay, give the Heat a little credit. They got here. Yeah, Denver's a better team. So the Celtics were a better team. The Knicks were probably on par with the Heat. The Heat, do I think they're going to win the series? I don't think they will win the series, but I certainly am not going to say it's going to be a sweep. I mean, you got Jokic, which is one of the best players in the world, but you got Butler, who's having an all-time great playoff run here. So South Florida is the hotbed for the winter sports. I mean, you got the Florida Panthers and their crazy run. I've been all over that. You got the Heat now, the 8 seed in the NBA Finals, and you never see an 8 seed in the NBA Finals. And Spoelstra, listen, this just boosts his all-time. We were saying a couple weeks ago that he's a top 10, top 15 coach. He's right there. He's right there with almost anybody. They obviously have, Red Auerbach, and you have Pat Riley's who's ahead of him and stuff like that. But when you start talking like Larry Brown and stuff, like Spoelstra's right there. He might even be better. And he's going for his 4th title. He's going to coach in his 6th NBA Finals. Give the Heat credit. Yes, the Celtics couldn't hit a shot tonight, and they probably wouldn't have beat anybody in the NBA tonight playing like that with Tatum on one leg. But don't discount the Heat, because the Heat have had a fantastic run. They had to scrape their way into the playoffs, which they did, and they never looked back. And now they are playing for an NBA title starting Thursday night in Denver. Now, when you look at the matchup, it's not favorable for the Heat. The numbers do not look good. The Heat have not won a game in Denver since November 20th, 2016. That's 7 years ago. Jokic and Butler were both bench players. They both came off the bench in the game. So, the numbers do not look good. The talent-wise, Denver's better. Every way that Denver's better, except maybe the coach. But, that was the case in this series as well. And they could have won this series, and it could have been a sweep. It could have been 5 games. This was not a great series, the Celtics and the Heat, besides Game 6, obviously. Obviously, Game 6 is an all-time game, and that's another thing. The loss tonight it really knocks what happened to Game 6 down multiple pegs as far as history goes and as far as how history will look at that moment. Celtics win tonight, then all of a sudden, that's an iconic moment. Now, it's like if the U.S. lost the gold medal game after beating the USSR and Russia. It wouldn't have meant as much. It just wouldn't have, and this one doesn't. This takes that down a bunch of pegs. It's almost, you need to complete the series. You need to complete the comeback for that to be an all-time great moment. It's still a great game. It's still a great moment. It will be played forever in Boston, but it's not the same as if they would have come back and complete the comeback. And like I said, it's hard to do. It's hard to do. And there's a reason why it's happened 151 times and the teams have failed to come back 151 times, because it's hard to do. And the Heat proved it tonight. The Heat played a decent game. They were by no means, played a great game. They played their game, and the Celtics, they got what they needed, because the Celtics are a better team. The Celtics played a terrible game. Maybe the worst game of the season the Celtics have played all season. 9 of 42 from 3, 39% from the field, barely any free throws. You're not beating anybody. So people paid a lot of money to go see that game tonight in Boston, and they left disappointed. It is what it is. And give the Heat credit. They're going now into the NBA Finals against Denver and Jokic, and we'll see what happens. With me and Brett, we'll talk about it on Friday. I don't know. I got to look at the matchup. I got to see, But just from a quick look here, since this game ended, or in the second half, I started looking at it, it doesn't look good for the Heat. But like I said, that's why they play the games. In the NHL, you have the Stanley Cup Finals now set. The Florida Panthers and the Vegas Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights tonight, 6-0 winners over Dallas in Dallas. And this is a fascinating Stanley Cup final. You know how I feel about the Panthers. I'm all on the Panthers. They've come out of nowhere. This Golden Knights team has come out of nowhere as well. Nobody expected them to be in this final. Now they're a more talented team. They are probably a little bit better team, but this magical run that the Panthers are on, I'm not betting against them. I'm picking the Panthers. Hands down, I'm picking the Panthers, and I'm rooting for the Panthers. But, Golden Knights came out tonight 6-0 after losing the game 5. They lost games 4 and 5. And now in game 6, it was a blowout right from the beginning. It was 2-0 before you hit the 10-minute mark. There were penalties being called on Dallas. It could have been worse. So a drubbing right there. And you got the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights in a very, very, very fascinating Stanley Cup final. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. They'd all get started later this week. The NBA takes a couple days off. They play Thursday. I'm surprised it's not next Thursday, to be honest with you, with the NBA. As far as the baseball goes, with the locals, the Mets bullpen stinks. Okay, I've said it a million times, but this bullpen is terrible. Terrible. The Mets they're a 500 team is what the Mets are. And they're lucky to be that. The reason the Mets are a 500 team is because they have a bunch of talent. Alvarez is playing great. Alonso's having an MVP type season. And the bullpen just blows it. I mean, that game yesterday, they were up 6-2. They were up 9-6. They blew multiple leads of multiple 3-run leads. You got Nagosic, who's garbage. Tommy Pham, I apologize to Tommy Pham because I've been running him off this team for 2 weeks. He had himself a big game yesterday, 4 RBIs. But that game yesterday was your classic Coors Field, Colorado Rockies game. 11-10, back and forth, runs all over the place. There wasn't a ton of home runs. You had Alvarez hit one, and you had Alonso hit one. But it was back and forth, 11-10. Nobody could get outs. But I'm not letting the Mets bullpen off the hook because it was in Colorado. Because you know what? This bullpen has stunk for 3, 4, 5 weeks now. And the Mets better get it together. They better have some serious, thoughts with themselves today on their day off. Because they have a big stretch here. These next 10 days are going to be very important for the Mets season. You got the Phillies coming to town. Now the Mets are in 3rd place now because the Marlins have passed them. So you got the Phillies and the Mets both go in the wrong direction at Citi Field, 3 games. Then Toronto comes in, which is not easy. Toronto's not a bad team. Toronto comes in for 3 games, followed by the Mets going down to Atlanta. The Mets go 2-8 in these next 10 days. They could play themselves right out of it. They go 8-2. They could play themselves right into the division talk. But I don't expect them to go 8-2. I probably expect a 6-4, 4-6, or a 5-5. Because that's what they are. They're a 500 team. They got all the red flags of a 500 team. Bad bullpen. Can't hold a lead. Inconsistent offense. Starting pitching, and not great. Verlander wasn't good. Scherzer wasn't good this last outing. The outings before that, they were great. So, you go back and forth like this, and it's just frustrating. You're pulling your hair out, especially a game like yesterday, 11-10, when you're blowing multiple 3- and 4-run leads, and then you have a rally in the 9th, and you leave the tie and run out there in scoring position. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. And I saw people calling for Buck and you fire Buck. Like, listen, don't fire Buck. It's not Buck's fault that they're not hitting. It's not Buck's fault that the bullpen can't get an out when they need one. You got Onavito, he's garbage. You got Nagosic, he's garbage. You got Raleigh, he's garbage. They need bullpen help, and it's not coming. It's not coming from the minor leagues. Bullpen help comes from via trades and via picking people up and striking lightning in a bottle. The Mets are going to need to strike lightning in a bottle. They're going to need to get somebody before the trade deadline, which is quickly, you still got 2 months before that happens. So we'll see. They're going to have to, but they have to do something because this bullpen is not working. And again, Scherzer and Verlander are going to be the keys. You need quality starts out of them every time out. And you get to the point where you need it every single time out the rest of the way. Because Mets they're 6.5 out. Atlanta's not playing great. The Mets are losing to bad teams. This last 25 game stretch of the Mets season was where they needed to fatten up the record. Pile on wins. Teams like the Reds, the Rockies, like stuff like bad teams. And they didn't do anything. They're 27-27. In third place behind the Braves and the Marlins. The Marlins are playing excellent. So the Mets, listen, these next 10 games, this Philly series is big. The Phillies not a good team. Okay? Win this series. Because the Mets now, you always say just win series, just win series, just win series. The Mets are losing series. Okay? They're dropping 2 out of 3 on a regular every week. They'll have 2 series a week. They'll drop 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. The only stretch they had was that 5-game stretch at home, and it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't like they were playing good baseball. They were just coming back and they were running into home runs, late home runs, clutch home runs, but you're not going to win like that. The bullpen was failing. The bullpen's been failing them now for months. And we thought it was going to be the closer position because we lost Diaz, and that seems to be fine. Robertson, I have no issues with Robertson. The rest of the bullpen, they can get the hell out. Don't let the door hit you on the way out because you can't get it out to save your life. The Yankees are playing much better. They just beat Seattle, who's a good team. I mean, Seattle is, they're not, let me rephrase that. They're not a good team. They're a decent team. Okay, Yankees starting a West Coast trip. They're now 8-3 in their last 11. They are 9 games over 500. They're still 6.5 behind Tampa, 2.5 behind Baltimore. So that race is going to be very interesting, especially if Baltimore can continue to play well and the Yankees continue to play well. And Tampa shows no sign of really, they had a rough game today. Stroman went out and Stroman again. After that trash dog and pony show off the field last week, Stroman comes out and throws a one-hitter. He backs it up with a one-hitter against the Rays. They blow out the Cubs blow out the Rays today. And that's what Stroman does. He's inconsistent, but when he's on, Stroman can pitch, and he pitched some big games for the Mets. But he's a troublemaker, and it's not consistent. You're not going to get this. He'll have a month and a half, 6 starts maybe, where he'll pitch real well, and then he'll go back to being Stroman. Something will catch his attention online, or he'll cause some trouble, or stir the pot here, or something. That's what Stroman does. That's what he does his whole career. But when he's on, he can pitch. So now the Mets are coming home. You got to win 2 out of 3. You got to win 2 out of 3 in both of these series, I think. Because you can't let the Marlins fly past you. And that's what happened this last weekend. The Marlins flew past the Mets right into second place. The Mets are now routinely dropping 2 out of 3. They've given up way too many runs. Verlander was not good. And it when it comes down to it, listen, the bullpen's got to be fixed, but the bullpen is fixable. If there's one thing that's easy to fix during the trade deadline, or as you get closer to the trade deadline and teams start to fall out of it, it's the bullpen, and you can probably get a bat. Starting pitching is what is tough to get at the deadline. So the Mets need Scherzer and Verlander. If they can't come through, then the team's dead anyway. They can fix they can have the best bullpen in baseball. If Scherzer and Verlander are not pitching up to par, then the Mets are not going to be a good team, and they're not going anywhere. So the Yankees Judge again today. This is the fourth time in his career that Judge has both hit a home run and robbed a home run in the same game. Yankees, they pitched well. They beat up on Seattle. The Yankees are now kind of coming up to where we thought they'd be. I mean, Glaber had a big day today. Judge 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs. He also scored 3 runs. Jake Bauers out of nowhere. 2 doubles, a home run, 2 RBIs, and a walk. It annoys me. It pisses me off because, the Yankees are now flying away. They happen to be in a division with a team that won 14 games to start the season. So, they're still behind, but I wouldn't put the Rays as a heavy favorite to win the division, although I think they would still be favorite. And then the Orioles are interesting, too. They're an interesting story. So, as we hit the quarter pole here, you got the Mets got to get it together. They're a 500 team. And now 500 is not as bad as it used to be. 500 now, you're going to be in the playoff race. You're going to be in the conversation at least. You probably got to get 5 games over, maybe 7 games over to make the playoff, to make that last wild card. And like we said, like we'll be saying all second half, the whole summer, the Phillies last year, look at the Phillies last year. They went and they did it, which is realistic. You could look at the Heat. The Heat are the 8th seed now playing for an NBA title. So you do just got to get in it, get in the tournament and see what happens. But right now, the Mets are not a very good baseball team, and they haven't been for a while, and it's starting to look like that might just be who they are. And that's what the Mets have done their whole existence. Mets have only made the playoffs in consecutive years, I think, twice. So, let's hope they can fix it. The bullpen, I don't think these guys are fixable in the bullpen. I think they need a couple new guys, new blood in there. The Gossett go, Ottavino go. Rowley, he can stay or go. It really is irrelevant to me. But you got to get some new people in there. Whether you do it via trade, the waiver wire, however you do it, it's got to be done. Gary Sanchez was picked up after he was DFA'd by the Mets. He was picked up by the Padres. So he's just continuing his pinball around the major leagues. He's with the team for a week or two. Then he DFA'd. Then he goes. He's released. He's on like his 3rd team this year, I believe. Other things in baseball, the Oakland A's, or as Howie Rose likes to call them, the Oakland Triple A's, have 10 wins. They're 10-40. I mean, that 62 Mets record of all time, what was it, 140 losses or something like that? That's in jeopardy. 60 wins, 120 and 60, I believe, were the Mets. That's in jeopardy. You're at Memorial Day, and the A's have 10 wins. That's no wonder nobody shows up. Because 2 years ago, this wasn't a bad team. 2 years ago, they were coming into the season. They were going to be a good team. The owner got rid of everybody. Anybody that was going to be making any kind of money, he got rid of them. They're a minor league team basically now. They're going to be moving. Nobody goes to the games. And they got 10 wins on Memorial Day. So that's what's going on there. And listen, so the big headlines today, Celtics, listen, if you don't hit shots in basketball, you're not going to win. It's as simple as that. There's no need for in-depth breakdown of this Game 7. There's no need for any of that. Celtics missed their shots. They were 9 of 42 from 3. Not winning anything like that. Heat, Denver Nuggets, Thursday night, Game 1, NBA Finals in Denver. Big favorite is Denver. Heat, I read it for you before, they haven't won a game in Denver in like 7 years. NHL, the NHL Finals the Stanley Cup Finals are also set. Las Vegas Golden Knights and my Florida Panthers. That, I believe it starts Wednesday. Don't quote me on that. I don't have it. Baseball. Mets, same story with the Mets. Same story. Listen, Alvarez looks great. Alvarez might be the best catcher in baseball over these last 3 weeks. Alonso's having an MVP year. But a bad bullpen is a crushing for a team. When you have a bad bullpen, you have back-breaking losses after back-breaking losses, and that's what the Mets have had. And that's because they have a bad bullpen. You get leads, you blow leads. You come back, then you give up runs right away in the next inning. When you have a bad bullpen, it is crushing losses for a baseball team. And it's hard to overcome. And it looks like the Mets that are going to have to overcome it because they have a bad bullpen. Can they? I don't know. But they have some guys having big years. Alvarez, I told you Alvarez not to worry when he was struggling to start. Every year of his career, if you look at it to every level, he has struggled to start. And when he gets it going, he really gets it going. And that's what's happened here in these last couple of weeks. 8 home runs in his last 103 at-bats. So, yeah, that's Mike Piazza-like type stuff. I know. But that's what that is. Okay, he's the best hitting catcher in baseball right now. Alonso has the most home runs in baseball. The Mets have a bad bullpen. They're not going anywhere unless they fix that. Yankees win tonight, 10-4. Another big game for Judge. They had the new kid, big game. Listen, the Yankees are rolling. They're 8-3 in their last 11. And that, they're still 6.5 out of first. Tampa's still living on that long 13-game win streak that they had to open the season. And that's what's going to happen. They've come back to earth a little bit. The Orioles are playing well. So the AL East turns out to be the best division so far. They're the only division in baseball that has 3 teams with 30 wins. So that's what's going on there. Mets big series starts tomorrow. Philadelphia in town for 3, then Toronto in town, and then they go to Atlanta. So a big 10 days for the New York Mets. Brett and I will be with you on Friday for another episode of Locked Up Sports. We want to thank Kevin Tibbles for coming on last week. Excellent guest. Great stories. If you haven't heard the show, listen to it. He tells great stories. He gives his opinion on Brian Williams thing, the whole thing. He's a big hockey fan. And listen, we appreciate him coming on. So that pretty much does it for us. Enjoy work tomorrow, everybody. I have off. It's my day off. I hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend. I hope you had a good 3-day weekend. I hope you got outside. Summer 23 is here. We'll talk to you Friday, everybody. I'm Bob Walters. See ya.